Did Amazon really fire thousands of American workers, blame it on AI, and then turn around and hire H1B visa foreign workers? Well, that is the contention that Senators Chuck Grassley and Dick Durbin are coming together on. And frankly, there may be a lot of evidence to that fact. Guys, in today's video, we're going to talk about how you and your job are being impacted by AI and the H1B visa program. I'm going to lay out quite a few stats here for you, and I want to hear your opinion in the comments of what impact you think artificial intelligence and the H1B visa program have on your ability to provide for your family. Let's face it, as men, guys, we have a lot of responsibility. We need to provide financially, spiritually, emotionally, all this stuff. And if you don't have a job, are you going to be able to remain relevant, respected, and financially free? I would argue not. You're going to have a hard time looking your wife in the eyes and saying, I can't find a job. So at any rate, today we're going to talk about this contention from both a Republican and Democrat senator. Guys, it doesn't seem like Republicans and Democrats can agree on anything, but one thing they do seem to agree on is that Americans need work. And I respect that because we do. We do. Men need to be employed. We need to have purpose, okay? So this is the contention from Senator Chuck Grassley and Dick Durbin. They say they requesting information and data from each company regarding their recruitment and hiring practices, as well as any variation in salary and benefits between H1B visa holders and American employees. And that's a big one. We're going to talk about that in just a minute, the benefits. This is a big deal, looking at the difference in benefits between these two types of workers. We're going to get there in just a minute. So Republican Senator Grassley also requested Department of Homeland Security Secretary Christine Noem to stop issuing any work authorizations to student visa holders. That's another thing. We're not going to get in that to today's video, but there are a ton of student visa holders that come here from overseas. They get trained. They could come from all over the place. China in particular. They come from China. They learn what we're doing here in the United States. They get trained and then they get integrated into American tech companies. Does that sound like a potential national security risk? Leave it in the comments below. I'd like to hear. You may think that's a dumb idea. You may think it's a good idea. I'd like to hear it. I'd like to hear from you. But I will say this. One stat that I do want to share with you that's pretty shocking, it's pretty staggering, is that American college graduates cannot find jobs. And I feel really sorry for these guys because they were dealt this promise that take out a $150,000 loan, go to college, learn software engineering, learn to code, as the saying goes, and you're going to be good. You're going to be able to provide for your family. But that is not what's happening, guys. They are not able to find jobs. In fact, the college graduation rate has increased from 5.8% to 6.6% in just the last 6 months. I'll post a link to the video there. I cover that story in detail. But the reality, guys, is that going to college does not guarantee a job at all. And quite frankly, it's got me questioning whether or not I should keep investing in my kids' college fund. At this point, I'm still doing it. Let me know what you think about kids' college fund, because that is something that I've been thinking about a lot, because the way that education works has completely changed. I don't want to go too far down a rabbit hole, but one of the clients that I do work for, we've been rethinking. He's got a very large mastermind, very big into education on e-commerce, and we're just rethinking, like, how does this look over the next 1, 2, 3 years? What are we building towards? How are we going to build this thing to exit? Who are we trying to serve? And I think these are important questions on how people are educated. Okay, let's look at the data here though, because if this contention is that these companies are firing thousands of Americans, turning around and just hiring foreign workers, well, what do the numbers look like there, guys? Well, here's a pretty staggering piece of data. The number of foreign STEM workers in the United States has more than doubled over the last 20 years. From 2000 to 2019, the number of foreign STEM workers has increased from 1.2 million to almost 2.5 million. And along those lines, the amount of employment has only increased 44%. So you've got a 50% increase in the amount of jobs and a 100% increase in the amount of foreign STEM workers. I mean, and the thing that the big tech companies are saying, well, we just don't have enough skilled laborers here in the United States. They don't, and maybe that's true. Maybe, you see these TikTok videos where someone's like, a day in the life of a Facebook employee, and she's like, I wake up at 10, I go to work, I have coffee, I have an hour worth of meetings. Then I go to the cafeteria, it's time for lunch, and then it's time for yoga, and it's like by the end of the day, they've worked 2.5 hours, and all they've done is spent their whole day in the coffee lab. So if that's the type of work ethic that you have, you're screwed. Is that type of work ethic that you have? As a father, as a provider, as a man? I don't. I had a comment here in the chat the other day. This guy says, why don't you get a real job, Mark? I'm like, okay, well, I've been married for over 10 years. I've got 2 kids. I'm coach of the baseball team. I'm active at church and men's groups. I'm the CMO for a SaaS company doing 3.5 million ARR. I have a small media company that produces, I employ 6 people there, and I'm recording these YouTube videos to highlight what's happening with work because I think it's important and I love it. I just enjoy being here. So, okay, I could go get rid of, oh yeah, also I managed to work out for 30 minutes to an hour every day too. So yeah, okay, I can go get a real job, or maybe you can go back to eating Cheetos, dude. I'll tell you. Anyway, let's get back to the numbers here. Amazon is the most threatened when it comes to this H1B visa hiring program. They are the #1 sponsor of H1B visas. In 2024, they hired 14,000 H1B visas. Microsoft and Meta, 5,000. Now, what's interesting here is the top 30 H1B employers hired 34,000 new H1B visa workers in 2024. And at the same time, they announced layoffs of 85,000. But what are they saying? They're saying it's because of AI. We're gonna use AI to replace these jobs. We don't need these jobs anymore. We have AI and automation. I recorded a video, I'll post a link to it here, on Salesforce. Salesforce just laid off 45% of their customer service staff. And by the way, if you're not looking at customer service bots, they are very, very powerful. Regardless, this is what the companies are doing. They're saying we're firing everyone and we're gonna use AI and automation. But if you're saying we're firing 84,000 and then on the back end, you're hiring 34,000 H1B visas, it don't look good. It doesn't look good. Don't love it. So our bipartisan senator combination here says they blame the layoffs of tens of thousands on AI tools, but then they turn around and hire 10,000. Amazon got approval just in the first half of 2025. They got approval for 12,000 H1B visas. And many software development roles that overlap with them were fired. And I think that's a compelling point. This is why I'm interested to see what rolls out here, because if you're firing 10,000, or let's say they fire 15,000 software developer roles, then you turn around and you hire 12,000 software developer roles via the H1B visa program, it doesn't look good. And I recorded a video about this a couple days ago. I think probably 25,000 of you guys watched and left comments. It was crazy. I was up all night responding to comments. But Trump just added a $100,000 application fee. And why do you do that? Well, here's the contention. Why are companies hiring the H1B visa holders? Because there's a few reasons. And the first of which is they're willing to work for less. If you're an American, you know, you have a certain quality of standard of living and you're gonna wanna work for more money. You have more rights, you need more benefits. H1B visa holders don't necessarily have those same benefits. They're willing to work for less. Now, these companies are gonna say, well, look, there's not enough talent here in the US. Meanwhile, you just fired a bunch of people, but maybe that's because they sucked. Maybe it's because they weren't willing to adapt. Maybe they were difficult. Maybe they slept in. Maybe they're spending all day at the coffee bar. I don't know. You could make that argument. I'd be open to that. But what these companies are saying is that, yeah, we need the best software engineering and cloud development skill in the world, and they're all coming from India and China. Okay, you can make that argument. I'd make the argument of, guys, what are we doing here? The United States needs to step up. We're the best in the world. Let's get after it. But here's the problem. Here's where the companies have so much leverage, because these H1B visa holders, and I'm sorry it took me 9 minutes to get here, but I think this is probably the most important point of the video. Thanks for being here. If you're still here, thanks for liking and subscribing, by the way. Definitely check out my newsletter, the AIupdate.ai. Killer newsletter. It's completely free. I'm covering all the stuff that's going to help you remain relevant, respected, financially free. So definitely go over to the newsletter, AIupdate.ai. But here's the thing. And this is the most important thing, I think, to talk about when it comes to H1B visa workers. They are indentured servants. They're not slaves, they are indentured servants. The company has so much leverage over them because it's not just, hey, you get fired, go find another job. It's, hey, you're fired, you have to leave the United States, you got to go back to your home country. That is an immense amount of leverage over these employees. It's not just, well, we're demoting you and you have to go fill out an application on Indeed. It's, no, you have to go back to India. So what are you willing to do then? You're willing to do a hell of a lot more to keep that job. Way more. You're willing to work twice as much as the average American. You're coming in on Saturdays and Sundays. You're putting in the hard work. You're not calling out sick. You're willing to put in way more effort to keep that job because you know what's on the line. And I mean, on one hand, I think hard work is great. I mean, I think nowadays we live such cushy lives. We don't understand that the history of the world has been you work your butt off or else you starve to death. That's been the history of the world. And now we're like, well, if I don't get 20 hours of video game time a week, then, you know, that's not fair. So there's some nuance there. The reality though is, do you want to compete against someone who, if they get fired, has to leave the country and go and go back? You don't want to compete against that, guys. At least I don't. They're going to work on a whole nother level. If I'm employing, I'm interested in hiring someone like that because they're going to be a workhorse. And at the same time, if I can't find the skilled labor, if people and employees are too whiny, I'm going to be looking to automate. And I think this is the final point I want to make here, is that the world is changing really rapidly. And where it's at now is not necessarily where it's going to be in the next 5 years. We need to keep upskilling, guys, because these AI and automation tools keep getting better. Sora 2 just released, and it's very, very impressive. It seems like every couple of weeks we get some huge AI update. And I know that it's easy to just sit there and say, well, it's the H1B visa, they took my job, they took our jobs at South Park, like I say, they took our jobs, it's those guys. We can't control what happens in Washington. Sure, we can vote, and that's great. But we don't focus on what we control. That's where I'm at. I want to focus on what I can control. And I can focus on developing my skills. I can focus on what are the next moves. I'm doing this now. I want to be doing this. I want to be doing this. Focus on what we can control. You know, and it's very easy to come here in the comments and blame Trump or blame Schumer or blame these politicians, and that's fine. I think that that's warranted to criticize. You can blame Amazon. That's fair. But what does that actually do for you? How does that serve you? How does that get you closer to being able to provide for your family, to being relevant, respected, financially free? That is the big question for you that I would ask. Because the AI replacement is here, it is happening. The H1B visa program is certainly worth noting. But if the H1B visas do get totally shut down by these huge fees, well, what does that mean? It means these companies are going to find other ways to shave money, and they're going to look for other ways to find talent. And if you have the skills to implement AI and automation, and you understand how to solve interesting problems, you are going to be first in line to get that job. You're going to be first in line to get that client. That is the challenge. That is what my message is for you today. Thanks for being here, boys. I'm here 6 days a week, Monday through Saturday. On Sunday we rest, but I'm here 6 days a week bringing you the latest AI news that's relevant to you. Thanks for watching. And if you enjoyed this video, you will definitely like yesterday's video. I cover exactly how the government shutdown is going to lead to AI replacement. You may not believe it, but the stats are there, boys. I'll see you there. Peace.